Hey there, rock and roll art stars. I'm here to tell you all about Diego Rivera today. He was born in 1886, died in 1957, and we're looking at the flower carrier. Before we zoom in on it, let me read this first paragraph to you. Our featured painting by Diego Rivera is the flower carrier. Notice the bold, bright colors he uses. With the use of shadows, he makes the subjects stand out from the background of the painting, almost as if the figures are outlined. How does he repeat the colors? Compare the size of the man to the size of the woman. The man is carrying the heavy load, but he appears to be a smaller person than the woman putting the load on his back. So let's take a little closer look. Look at the colors. Look at the proportions. And look at the way he outlines his figures. All right, so Diego Rivera was born in Guanajuato, Mexico in 1886. He had a twin brother, but his brother died when he was only a year and a half old. His mother became depressed and sent little Diego to live with his nurse, Antonia, an Indian woman. She cared for him in a small village high up on the mountain. When he was just 6 years old, Diego's family moved to Mexico City. Diego loved to draw, and his father made a studio for him by covering the walls with black canvas, on which he could draw with chalk. He loved drawing soldiers, but he was not destined to be a soldier. He was sent to military school at age 10, but only stayed for a short time. He enrolled in evening art classes at the San Carlos Academy of Fine Arts in Mexico City. He studied there for 5 years, but was later expelled for participating in student revolts at the school. These experiences were only the beginning of the controversy which would surround Rivera throughout his life. At age 16, he left and started his career as a painter. The wall in front of Diego Rivera's home in Acapulco, Mexico is decorated with mosaics in bright colors. Here, let's look at this one closer. And mosaics are like tiny pieces of glass or mosaic, like squares. So these are all glued. It's like to some kind of wall. It's pretty big when you compare it to the plants here growing, and then there's a step right there. Let's look at the other one. I like the dragon and the frog. So cool and colorful. All right, his other one has a bunch of words. I'm not sure what all they say, but I see his signature there, and it looks like another dragon or a snake. And then look at this plant with this interesting looking face expression with a tree or a plant growing out of the head. And then it looks like a snake over here. Pretty cool. All right, let's go on back. He went to Paris in 1909 and he saw Cézanne's work for the first time. He spent hours gazing at the artist's works. Later, he went to Spain, where he was awarded a 4-year scholarship to study art in Europe. He made various trips to France, Belgium, Holland, and Great Britain until finally settling in Paris in 1911. In 1913, he became a Cubist painter in order to support himself. Let's see what it says about Cubism and Diego here. So Cubism was invented by Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque, and what the Cubists were interested in doing was breaking up the picture plane so you could see all the sides of figures and things rather than just seeing a flat surface. Almost like they take it and break it and kind of mix it up and put it back together as a puzzle. So this one's called the Café Terrace, 1915. You can kind of see a table here, maybe some stuff that was on the table. Pretty wild. All right. He married Angelina, a Russian artist he met in London, and during World War I, money was scarce and they barely made a living. They had a son, but he died when he was very young, and the couple separated. In 1922, he married Lupe Marin, and they had 2 daughters. He and Lupe joined the Communist Party, and 5 years later, they divorced. Frida Kahlo was a young artist in Mexico. She was seriously injured in a bus accident and spent months in recovery. She met Diego, and they married. It was a stormy relationship. They divorced and then remarried, and shortly before her death, her art was exhibited in Mexico City. The doctor told her not to leave her bed, so she had the bed with her in it delivered to the exhibition. Wow. I didn't know that. As a communist, Rivera did not favor Stalin, but did help Trotsky, who had broken with Stalin. Rivera gave him political asylum in Mexico in their home. And after a quarrel with Diego, Trotsky and his wife moved out, and he was assassinated by the secret police. Wow. Rivera became interested in the works of the Renaissance artists. The frescoes were especially appealing to him. A fresco was made by brushing watercolor on fresh, wet plaster. He decided he could do this kind of art and it would be available to everyone. The Mexican ruler wanted murals to decorate the walls of the schools. Rivera was one of 3 artists chosen to paint these murals. He became director of the Academy of San Carlos in 1929, and he is noted for the murals he painted on the walls of buildings. He was invited to paint murals in the United States. He painted one in California and then went to Detroit, where in 1932 and 1933 he painted scenes from a Ford motor plant where they were making cars. Edsel Ford agreed to pay him $21,000 for the mural. That was a lot of money back then. But he had to pay his assistants out of the fee. Industry workers at the time were making $22 a week, and before he started the work, he toured the plants and watched them make cars for 3 months. After it was finished, 20,000 people a day visited the museum to look at it. So here's the Detroit industry mural. And we're going to a detail of it. This is just a part of it. And you can see there's some flowers over here growing. So you can kind of get an idea of the scale, how big it was, or big it is, I should say. I believe there's another one. This one's called Making a Fresco, 1931 detail. So here's a detail of another mural. Looks like it's still going on in the factory. If you look around, the 3 guys having a little meeting there. Whoops. I really pause this. Pause. All right, I'm back. So, hopefully you can't see this little square. Why don't I just erase? I accidentally kicked myself out of the biography there. All right, there we go. Whoops. So here's another mural I skipped to, and you can kind of see just how big it is in scale by the staircase that's winding around it. All right, let me see if I can get back. Go back. All right, so that's the one we just looked at. That was Diego Rivera mural at the City Club. So Rivera was a large man, over 6 feet tall, and he weighed about 300 pounds. People didn't soon forget such an imposing figure. However, painting the frescoes was grueling work, and he lost 100 pounds. Frida did not even recognize him when he met her at the train station. So he must have traveled to do those. Because of his political views, some of his murals were not accepted by the people. And when he proposed a large mural, Man at the Crossroads in New York, we'll look at it after I'm done reading this paragraph, he thought his friendship with the Rockefeller family would allow him to put in the scene anything he desired, including a picture of Lenin, communist leader in Russia. So Nelson Rockefeller asked him to replace the picture of Lenin with another face. He didn't want to make it political, but Diego refused. He offered to put in a picture of Lincoln on the side of the mural, but that offer was refused by the Art Institute, and they paid him in full for the work and told him to stop painting. When Rockefeller stopped the work on the mural, Rivera and his assistants were escorted from the building, and the mural was covered with a giant canvas. That one we were just, I think, looking at. No, the one we're going to look at, my bad. Later, they went in at midnight one night and destroyed the mural with axes. Wow. Rivera later painted a smaller version of the same mural in Mexican City. So here is a smaller version of the mural that he got in trouble for. Well, actually, him and Rockefeller couldn't agree on it because it was too political. And then the Art Institute didn't want it either. So he painted a smaller one. Man at the Crossroads. Okay. So 14 years later, he painted another controversial mural in Mexico for the Hotel del Prado. He included in it words denying the existence of God. Because of the scandal that occurred, the public was not allowed to view it for 9 years. 4 years after that incident, he made a mural in Mexico in which he painted Stalin, accompanied by Mao Zedong, Chinese communist leader. Officials removed it from the building, and Rivera was a member of the Communist Party the last 30 years of his life, but his insistence on promoting his political views did not set well with the people of Mexico and the United States, who commissioned him to paint the murals for them. The mural shown below is on a Mexican theater. Let's take a look at it. And there it is. That one's huge. This one almost looks like it's like painted, and then it looks like it has some mosaic work in it. I could be wrong. Can anybody translate what movies are playing at the theater? Hoimeno Febreros presenta de me quen venidas me cruz Oliver. Not sure what that means. So after Frida's death, he married Elma Hurtado, who was his art dealer, and he suffered with cancer, then had a stroke. His right arm became paralyzed, but he continued to paint with his left hand, and he died of heart failure in 1957 at the age of 71. And here's a photograph, a black and white photograph of him, of Diego Rivera. All right, let's take the test. Make sure you put your first and last name. I'm just going to put Diego Rivera. And make sure you get the right class code. I supplied those for you, so make sure you got the right color day and block number and your first and last name, or I won't be able to give you credit for doing this test. And yeah, if you want to take it more than once, you can. So I'm going to read these to you just one time. Pick the best answer, and you can always skip over them and go back. Number 1, Diego Rivera was born in Spain, France, Portugal, or Mexico. Number 2, when he was 6 years old, the family moved to Paris, Madrid, Mexico City, or Amsterdam. Number 3, Rivera was expelled from school for taking part in a revolt, stealing, drunkenness, cheating. Number 4, he was awarded a 4-year scholarship to study art in, Cairo, Europe, New York, or Montreal. Number 5, you can see blank in front of his home. Is it sculptures, topiary, mosaics, or artists? Number 6, a mural is an miniature, sculpture, origami, or a large painting on the wall. Yeah, you could probably Google these answers too, or go back to the biography and look these up if you need to. One of his murals was destroyed because it was too big, included a likeness of Lenin, eventually faded, or contained lead. Number 8, after the mural was destroyed, Rivera painted a smaller version of it, sued the Art Institute, never painted another mural, or only painted small pictures. Number 9, another one of his murals was hidden for 9 years because Rivera kept it a secret. He had not been paid for the work, the hotel kept changing it, or it denied the existence of God. Last but not least, number 10, Rivera was a member of the what party? Independent, Democratic, Communist, or Libertarian? Okay, after you're done, and you might want to go back and check your answers, or do the ones you skipped over, or look them up in the bio, or Google the answers. Click on I'm finished, grade my test, and of course it's telling me I forgot to answer some, but if after you're done, it'll tell you what your score is, and then you know you turned it in. Okay? All right, take care, rock and roll art stars. Keep on creating and rock on.